but everyone has a different story to tell. Shell, which says it's losing the
Tampa market. Skyward rise.
Country in Northeast Africa, precisely on the horn of Africa.
Good morning. This is Frank. Once again, I am your host. This is the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series every Friday morning. Thank you all for tuning in. So as you come on, please share the live as usual, and please also like, and as you watch the recording, please also subscribe to this channel. Today's topic, it says, Chad-Afrika expel German ambassador for political interference, and many more we're going to discuss. So Chad-Afrika expel German ambassador for political interference. Now, today, this topic, by the way, it have been discussed already by other platform. All right. So WCC is also discussing this topic today. So, but with WCC, we're going to take it to another level. All right. So we're going to take it to another level, and we're going to look at it on another level. We're going to look at it as a Pan-African perspective. All right. And we're going to give a Pan-African perspective. All right. And we're going to give a Pan-African solution. All right. So this is what WCC is about. We analyze things and we look at it on a different perspective. All right. So Chad-Afrika expel German ambassador for political interference. Now, the theme for today is power. I'm going to be preaching today, by the way. I am preaching today, all right? So the theme for today is power. All right? Is power. That's the theme for today. So one who have the power control the narrative. All right? One who have the power control the narrative, and one who have the power, all right, not just the narrative, but control the totality. What are human being? What are resources? What are an entity? What are a territory? All right. What are a colony? All right. Once you have the power, you control the narrative. You control every aspect of it. Power. Like I said, we're going to look at it on a different perspective as a Pan-Africanist and give a Pan-Africanist solution. All right. So Chad-Afrika expel German ambassador for political interference. Now, what did Europe do in this, right? What was the perspective of the European or the Westerner? How did they carry this narrative? How did they change it around? Again, power. These folks, these Westerners, what are America, what are France, what are Germany, what are Great Britain, whosoever, right? They feel that they have the power over African people and over the African continent. So they will always put themselves in an area of controlling how they want to control the narrative. Now, after Chad dismiss or expel the German ambassador for political interference, America and Europe, the Western world, they changed the narrative, all right, on the internet, and says German expel the Chadian authority or ambassador or consular in Germany. So do you see what happened? All right. Who came first? The Chaldean came first before the German. And the Chaldean have a reason as to why they expel the German ambassador. But the German have no reason to why they expel the Chaldean ambassador in Germany. Their reason is because the Chaldean expel their ambassador. That's their reason. So they retaliated against the Chaldean for them expelling the German ambassador. But they did not look at the reason why the Chaldean expelled the German ambassador. So they retaliated. How dare you? Who gave you the power? How dare you expel our ambassador in Africa? Who are you? How dare you expel our ambassador in Chad? Who are you to come dismiss us or to come expel us? You lesser of a you 3/5 of a lesser human being. Who are you to expel us? Who gave you that power? We are the one to expel you, not you expelling we the Westerner. Who gave you that power? That is why, amen. So let's check in here. Power. We got a lot to discuss today. Power. Let's look at the first video here, and then we dive into it. So in this first video, I also have an issue with the African journalist, the reporter in this video. I have an issue with him because they do not understand how the Westerner, along with their political institution and the media, work together. So the political institution of the West and their media, they work together with one voice. But in Africa, most of our so-called journalists do not understand how to protect the integrity of your nation. They don't understand. So I have my problem with him in this video, and I'm going to address him in this video. And that goes to the so-called African journalists and the so-called African media hubs in Africa. They need to understand that the political institution of the West, of the Western world, of Europe, they all work together along with their media institution, or they all work together with their reporters, because they look at the interests of their nation and of their continent. But our African journalists, most of them, they don't get it.
Authorities in the Republic of Chad have announced the dismissal of the German ambassador to the Central African country due to what it described as his impolite attitude. According to a government spokesman, the decision was motivated by the impolite attitude and the lack of respect for diplomatic customs by the German ambassador as prescribed by the Vienna Convention. No further explanation was given, but according to local media reports,
now, do you see this African journalist? The German ambassador was expelled, but no further explanation or detail was given. But he also said they expelled him because of a lack of diplomatic order in the country. That is enough. That is enough reason to expel him, because he did not follow diplomatic order. He did not respect the constitution of the land. He did not respect the authority of the land. That is enough reason to expel him. Do you see African ambassador in America, in Europe, in the Western world, interfere with the political affair of that nation, of that continent? Do you see it? Which one of the African ambassadors ever interfere in the election of America? Ever interfere in the election of the European nation? Which one of the African ambassadors? Which one of the African ambassadors ever go to the White House and say, you have to hurry up with the election? So person got to win, and this person should not win. Which one of the African ambassadors ever get Europe time as to when election supposed to be here and election supposed to finish? That is enough reason to expel them. No detailed information. You did not respect the diplomatic order of the land. And then you say there was no detail. But again, he's also reporting from the sources of the Western media. But you also make it clear, according to local news. So who's supposed to get the real news? The local people. You think you're going to get the real news from America or from the Western world about Africa? No, you get the real news from the local people. What you hear from the local people as an African journalist, that's it. And period, nothing less, nothing more.
No further explanation was given, but according to local media reports, Ambassador Jan-Christian Gordon Cricket's criticism of the current transitional government might have been the reason for his dismissal. The expelled diplomat, who has been serving as German's ambassador to Chad since 2021, was given 48 hours to leave the country.
Right there, that's it. That was enough reason, because he interfered in the political affair of the country. That is not what he's there as a German ambassador or consular. That is not what he's there for, to interfere in the political affair of the country. That is enough reason to expel him, to dismiss him, to kick him out. Enough. Period. That's it. If any African ambassador do it in America here, do you think they're going to give any further explanation to Africans or to Africa to say we expel this Liberian ambassador or this German ambassador, or not German, but this Ghanaian ambassador or Nigerian ambassador or Senegalese ambassador because he did X? No. The explanation is we expel this Nigerian ambassador or Liberian or Senegalese ambassador because he interfered into the political affair of America, period. It is not their right to come and give detailed information. For a typical example, wasn't a journalist, an African journalist at the White House, when he questioned that so-called Negro to the White House, to Joe Biden, that so-called Negro, when they questioned her, what does she do? She never answered those African journalists. She pushed them aside. Because you know what? They have no right. They have no right to interfere or to question America about the governmental system of America. Just journalists, not even the ambassador, just a journalist that questioned that press secretary to Joe Biden, that Negro. She did not answer those journalists. That alone in itself. And then you want to say, imagine the audacity for Africans ambassador to interfere in European election or American election. They will even explain. They will expel you with no further detailed information. But with Africa, we should tell you everything about why we did this, why we did. In fact, we should get report. That is what it means. We should come and give report to the colonizer to tell them the decision we took was because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. For what? Power. because they feel they have power over African people and over the African continent. That is why anytime they do anything, when we take solution, they react. They react. So they are trying to tell us Africa does not have a power, any power to expel us or to expel any European leader, even if they interfere into the political affair of the continent or of any nation in Africa. We do not have the power to take any legal action against them. That is what it means, power. But see how they took the narrative, all right? Now look at how all the Western media carry the narrative. Because on the internet, if they put there, Chad expelled German ambassador, that gave power to the African nation. That gave momentum to the African nation. That made the world, people in the world to think, okay, to have a perception or perspective that yes, indeed, Africa now have the power. But do you know what they did? They changed the narrative around. All the Western media, including America, they all changed the narrative to say Germany expelled the Chadian ambassador. But who came first? Who expelled their friend first? And then who reacted to what happened? The Chadian ambassador or the Chadian expelled the German ambassador, which happened first. And in return, the German retaliated. So who's supposed to come first? So what should be the headline? The headline supposed to be German expelled the Chadian ambassador? That's not the headline. The headline is Chad expelled the German ambassador and the German retaliated against their ambassador being expelled. Or the German reacted for them being expelled in Africa. But they do not want to give the power to Africa. They changed the narrative. Let's see what they did here. Let's look at the first instant here. What all of them did here, okay? None of these people are for Africa. So the first post here, right, is from the ABC News, okay? The first here is from the ABC News. See what the ABC News said. German expelled Chad ambassador after own envoy kick out. So do you see here how they change it around? Okay, so the entire headline in Europe, in America, German expelled, because they are not going to make a headline to say Chad expelled the German ambassador. They will never do that. So do you see, you so-called African journalists, do you see how these European journalists do things to protect their image, to protect their name, to protect their nation, to protect their continent, to protect their power? Do you see it? All of them. This is their headline. German expel. They're not going to say Chad expel. That gives power to Chad. That gives power to Africa. Okay? So they said, German on Tuesday ordered Chad ambassador to leave the country, responding to the Central African nation expulsion last week of the German ambassador. So do you see how they explain it? So as the explanation goes, the narrative, they say, Germany retaliated on Tuesday against what it called the unformed explosion of our ambassador. So you see it. They did not even, how they call it, recognize the decision the Chadian people took or African took. No, they did not honor it. No, they said it was stupidity. No, it was stupidity to expel their ambassador in from Africa or from an African nation. It was inferior to do it. Okay? There is a charge ambassador in Berlin, Marian Alio Musa, was summoned. So do you see what it did? Was summoned to the foreign ministry and given 48 hours to leave Germany. So what is the diplomatic relationship here, folks? Last week we said there is nothing in the world like diplomatic or diplomat. What is a diplomatic approach here? Couldn't it be advisable for the German to go to Africa or to Chad to actually investigate what led to the action? To actually understand what led to their action? But no. They appreciated what their ambassador did by interfering into the political affair of the country. And they gave the Chadian ambassador 48 hours to, in fact, they summoned her to leave the country as well. So what is a diplomat here? What is the equality here? What is the fairness here? But again, we Africans, sometimes, every day, these people show their true colors to us, but yet then stay, we don't recognize it. We don't realize the intention of these people. It's not about friendship. It's about power and control. Power and control. They use their resources to gain power over you and to control you and to control your narrative and to control your understanding. So this is what they say. This is what Germany said. We regret that it had to come to this. The ministry said in a tweet, Ambassador carry out his job. So they, in fact, Germany acknowledged what the German ambassador did in Chad. And they said he carried out his job. Okay? He carried out his job. So in reality, that was what he was sent for as an ambassador in Africa, to interfere in the political affair of the country as to who should be in power and who should not be in power. We can take that out. Okay? So you see right there. So we're going to take this out. And then we're going to look at the next one and see how all of them respond. Okay? Let's see the next one here. So the next one, I'm just going to look at the hailing. All right? I'm not going to look at it into it. But all of them carry the same narrative. So we're just going to look at the hailing. All right? Okay. So let's look at the next one here. So do you see the next one here? This is from the Hill. This is from the Capitol Hill, right? So see the next one here again. German expelled Chad ambassador after UNENVO kick out. So German expelled Chad ambassador. But what happened first? All right? The Chadian or Chad expelled the German ambassador. That's what happened first before Germany retaliated. All right? So do you see how all of them carried the narrative? Germany expelled Chad ambassador because that gave them the power. All right? Let's see here. And all of them carry the same narrative that nothing happened, and we will learn. We African, we will learn. We will learn. We will learn. We will learn. Okay? We will learn. So let's see the next one here. The next one here, let's see the next one here again. So the next one here is from the Washington Post. So do you see here again? Germany expelled Chad ambassador after UNENVO kick out. So Germany expelled Chad ambassador. So you see the narrative here. It's the narrative. Okay, do you see it here? So it's not saying Chad expelled Germany ambassador, but rather Germany expelled Chad ambassador. Look at the narrative. Okay, they all are working in their interest, in their political interest, or in their institutional interest. Okay, the media, okay, institution and the political institution of the West, they are all working together. And that's how African nation need to be. The political institution and the media of Africa need to work together. African nation need to work together. All right? But most African media institutions do not work together along with the political institution. They work with the West. Most African media institutions work alongside the West and carry the narrative of the Western narrative. Okay, let's look at the next one. Let's take this out. We will get to the discussion, but I want you to look at the narrative, all right? As we get to the discussion, we're going to see the reason why their ambassador, the German ambassador, just how even American ambassador in African nation interfere in African politics. All right, this is what they do. All right, we're going to see why they were expelled, but they acknowledged what they were doing in those countries, in that country. Let's take this out. We are just looking at the narrative. All right, take this out. Look at the next one again. The next one here. All of them. And this go to the so-called African journalists. Learn. All of them. Let's see the next one here. So this is from the World Trade Organization, right? So do you see, even the World Trade Organization, do you see here? Germany expelled charged ambassador after own envoy kicked out. And they all went with the same narrative as to Germany did not do anything. What Germany did, what the ambassador did in Chad were doing the right thing. They did the right thing. They were there doing their job. The World Trade Organization, okay? They carry the same narrative, all right? Germany expelled Chad ambassador after own envoy kick out. So African journalists, African media, you guys got to learn from these people and find a way to sell Africa to the world, to sell Africa in the interest of African. Let's continue here. Let's continue. Let's look at the next one. Let's look at the next one. Look at the next one here again. Look at the next one here again, right? Now, this is CBS 17. So CBS 17, the same thing. Germany expelled charged ambassador after own envoy kick out. And they all carry the same narrative as you read here. All of them said Germany did not do anything wrong. All right? But even though the first video we watch, they said Germany interfered into the political affair, the election of the country. Their ambassador interfered in it. But yet then they said they did nothing. All of them, they carry the same narrative. They did nothing. Because that is why these so-called Westerners are on the African continent, are in African nation for. So you see, they all carry the same narrative. Let's continue. Let's continue here. Let's continue here. All right. So this is Fox News, right? Fox 59, right? The same thing. Germany expelled charged ambassador after own envoy kick out. So you see the same thing, the same headline, the same narrative, right? Just like that. And the same narrative here. That's what all of them went by. They carry it again as you read. Let's continue here. Let's continue. Let's continue. Let's see here. So this is Al Jazeera. So Al Jazeera as well. You see it. Germany expelled charged ambassador. All right. as you can see it. All right. Now, and they all carry the same. I mean, even Al Jazeera tried to explain in here. Al Jazeera they explain a little bit about the reason why the German ambassador were expelled. They explain a little bit about interfering in the election in the political affair of the country, which is abomination. All right. So let's take that out. Let's take that out. Now, let's see the reason why Chad was expelled from, let's say Germany was expelled from Chad or from an African nation. All right. So you see the West, okay? You see the Western world, their narrative, how they all work together. All right. When it comes to their interests, when it comes to protecting their interests. All right. Because if the capital here, or if America carry different narrative, just imagine America to Africa, they all do the same thing. If they don't carry the narrative of what Germany believe, and they carry different narrative in the interest of African people, what is going to happen? The day America do it, the German newspaper or the news media going to go against America too. Okay? So all of them, they go with the same narrative because all of them do the same thing in African nations. All right? So when one of them do it, when one of them do it, they all go with the same narration. They don't leave one another. Because if they do that, it will bring division among them. They do not want division among them, among each other, right? So they go with the same narrative so that when one do it, all of them back each other. All of them, you check their news media, all of them carry the same narrative. So now, let's see what happened. Okay? Let's see what happened. Now, this is African news channel, all right? But that does not mean it's operated by African. This African news channel is not for African. It's not an African owned. It's Western owned, okay? This African news channel is owned by an Italian, all right? I have done some research and looked behind it, and I even chatted with them, okay, on a live chat, and I went head to head with them, all right, of some of the report they do in Africa. And there are a lot of reports in Europe they don't bring to the world, but they are mainly focusing on Africa because there are a lot of things going on in France, a lot of things going on in Europe. They don't bring it, all right? But see what Europe did. So you see how all of them are still together. So what Germany did in Chad, in Africa, Europe condemned the action of Africans. Europe condemned the action of Chad. Europe condemned Chad, and then they regret the expulsion of German ambassador. They regret the dismissal of German ambassador. They regret it. But they did not regret the dismissal of the Chadian ambassador in Germany. They did not regret it. Where is the global agenda? Where is the diplomatic relationship here? Two people took decision. Two people took action based on certain thing that was done, but you condemn one and you did not condemn the other one. In fact, one of them that is to be more condemned, you acknowledge it, and then the one that is not to be condemned, you condemn it. These people are not friends, and these people are not people to ally with. Once a colonizer will always be a colonizer. Once a killer will always be a killer. Once a devil, a demon, an enemy will always be an enemy to you. Let's continue here. Okay, so they say here the decision of the Chadian government to expel the German ambassador is regrettable and constitute a particularly hostile gesture. A spokeswoman for the head of European diplomacy, Joseph Browell, said Wednesday. So this European diplomat did not even understand, did not even get to understand the side of African, the side of the Chadian government. What led to their decision? But rather, she said, it's regrettable. It's a hostile environment created for them. So, folks, do you see what is going on here? Do we have to ally with these people? Do we even have to have their embassy in Africa? In reality, they are the one gaining from African nations. They are the one gaining from the African continent. We are not really gaining from them in reality. Because we do not interfere into their political affair. No. But let's continue here. The Chadian government has announced Friday evening the expulsion of the German ambassador for this cautious attitude and disrespect of diplomatic custom. Of course. But do you see here? This is what the Chadian government said. The Chadian government said the German ambassador disrespected diplomatic boundary. In fact, went beyond diplomatic custom. And you got expelled and you got angry. You interfere into the political affair of the country. That is not your area. You went beyond diplomatic custom. You went beyond diplomatic means. In reaction to this explosion, deemed unjustified. So they said it's deemed unjustified, right? The German government the German government announced on Tuesday the expulsion of the Chadian ambassador to Berlin. You know what? If I were the Chadian authority, there will be no German ambassador or embassy in Chad. And I don't care if we have our Chad embassy in Germany or not. I don't care. We don't even care. We will see who will feed it. We will see who need who. Again, this goes down to power. Because they feel they have power. In reality, the German, they actually want embassy in Chad. Because of the oil. They need an embassy. But they have to do this so that they can exercise their power over us, so that we can feed that, or the African can feed that. We don't have power. They have the power. We need them. They show that we need them. That is what they're trying to do. We need the German people. So regardless why, we will still have to call them. We will still have to succumb to them. We will still have to submit to them and say, okay, we apologize. Let our embassy stay. Okay, you guys should come back and interfere into our politics. If I were the Chadian authority, I don't care if we have embassy in Germany or not. We will see who need who. Even as we speak right now, the entire Europe need Africa. They are crying. They are begging. How many European diplomats have proliferated themselves on the African continent? How many American diplomats have proliferated themselves on the African continent? Do you think they didn't need us? They need us more than we need them. Let's continue here. We will give solution though. We will give solution. Don't worry. This is WCC. But as we explain it, solution is also flowing. All right. Now, the decision of the transitional authority. Let me go down here, sir. Okay. A Chadian government source told AFP on condition of anonymity that the authority accused the diplomat of interfering too much That was why they were expelled, of interfering too much. Now, if they tell you too much, that means it was not even 1 term, it was not 2 term, it was not 3 term, it was not 4 term, it was not 5 term. Uncomfortable, too much. Too much. Okay? So this German ambassador, these European, these Westerner, this is what they do. Interfered into African politics. So this was not the first time. It had been going on. It had reached to a peak and they couldn't take it no more. So they were accused of interfering too much in the governance of the country. So rather, they were also governing the country. They were not there for their with their embassy or to see what kind of resources they can get, but they were part of the governmental system of the country. Which one of the African ambassadors is a part of the governmental system of America? It's part of the governmental system of Europe, of Germany, of England. So do you see that? They were interfering too much in the governance of the country, as well as comments, trending to devour the Chadian. And this is what they do. They go into the country, they cause divisions in there. Oh yes, the American ambassador to Liberia, he tried to do it in Liberia. McCarthy tried to do it in Liberia. They all do the same thing. He tried to do it in Liberia. He tried to cause division among under this current government. The American ambassador to Liberia, McCarthy, he tried to do it. But he felt the heat. We went after him, not by violence, but we educated him of the history of that country. We educated him about America history to that nation. We gave him some education and we put him in a place. And overnight he kept silent. Up to now he stayed silent. This is what they do. Because they feel we are individual Africans. We don't have the power. So they all do it. So this is what they did. So this is enough information. They don't have to give you detailed information because you interfere into the governance system, into the governmental system of the country. And as well as you try to cause division among the Chadian. And then before you look, like what happened in Sudan. These are the same army that just split and they fighting one another. This is what exactly they do. So when you really go deep into it, this is what they did in Sudan. And that's the same thing they try to do in Chad. Put nations together. Put the same people together and divide and fight among one another. That is why exactly they did in Sudan. That's why today, the same army fighting one another. The same army split into two and then they fighting one another. Killing their own people. Destroying their own nation. It makes no sense. Once a colonizer will always be a colonizer. Once an enslaver will always be an enslaver. In fact, it was through colonization they gained their wealth. They gained the power they have today. It was through enslavement they gained the power they have today. So they will carry on that same agenda. It was the same divide and conquer. That the power they have today over African, they have the divide and conquer. So do you think they're going to allow us to unite? They're going to keep that matter of division in order to carry on their power, in order to stay under there. So they were trying to make Chad. They see what Sudan, they see what they make Sudan. Today, they see army fighting one another. How will it make sense if Marine, they see Marine, the United States Marine divide into two, and they see United States Marine where all of them took the same training, and then they start fighting one another in America here. How will it make sense when the United States Army split into two? They see is that the same government fighting one another. How will it make sense? If someone come and made the United States Marine or Army split into two and they fight one another. How will it make sense if someone go in Germany and then the German army and infiltrate them and split it into two, then the same army start fighting one another, destroying Germany, killing the German citizen? How will it make sense if someone got in England, the same English army split it into two, then the same army start fighting one another? And the same army start killing their own citizens. And the same army start destroying the Buckingham Palace. And the same army start destroying the Barclay Bank. Will it make sense? No, it won't make sense. But it makes sense when you do that to African nation, to devour African people because of their stupidity, because of their own ignorance. So if the people take action, and then he said it was undiplomatic, it was not comfort. That's hostile environment. You creating hostile environment for Africans. Or it makes sense, right? When America went to Ethiopia and started supporting the TPL, a rebel division, the same people, you cause division among them. It makes sense. It makes sense to create chaos among the people. And then when the people take action against you, you say it's undiplomatic. But it makes sense to create chaos among the people. Oh, it makes sense when America went to Libya and created division among the people. It makes sense. But when people want to criticize America about action taken in Libya, then you go after those people that criticize America. It doesn't make sense to criticize America. It doesn't make sense to tell America her wrongdoing. It doesn't make sense to tell the Europeans their wrongdoing. But it makes sense for them to go into Africa and cause division and destroy the place. It makes sense for them to create proxy war like how it's happening in Sudan right now. It makes sense. It makes sense to sit down and close our mouth so that the German ambassador can cause division and chaos in Chad, for the people to fight among themselves, to create hostile environment now, to create proxy war. It makes sense. It makes sense. But it don't make sense when you kick out their ambassador for interfering into political affairs of that country. Oh, it makes sense, right? We see. It makes sense. In our case, it makes sense. That's what they call power. These people feel they have power over us. That's why they do what they want to do to us. But let's see what power does. Let's watch this video and see what power does. Let's learn from Russia. The same thing they've been doing to the African nation. Because they feel we don't have power. When they take action against us and we want to retaliate, they put sanctions on us. And then they tell other nations not to come to us. They tell us not to go to other nations. They forbid other nations. But if we have power, even if they put sanctions on, they cannot forbid us. They cannot forbid us from doing business with other nations. Russia have power. That's why they put sanctions on Russia. But that did not forbid Russia from doing business from other people. Tell me which one of the African nations that is so-called America, the so-called Europe put sanctions on, and then they went ahead and started doing business with other nations. In fact, they were threatening nations that will go do business with that nation that they put sanctions in Africa. But because Russia has power, they can't carry their nonsense to Russia. Russia is still doing business with other people. And in fact, because Russia controls her thing, Europe and America are feeling the heat. That's what power is. And power comes along with controlling your access. Because Russia controls her access. We Africans do not control our access. Power. Let's continue to this video. Now, let's watch this video and see what they say so-called Germany. That's what all of them do. Okay? What they did in Chad, that's what they did in Germany, and they were expelled.
France 24's Catherine Norris-Trent has been following events of Venezuela. Now, France 24's Catherine Norris-Trent has been following events for us in Caracas. Catherine, can you tell us a bit more about this clash between Venezuela, the Venezuelan government of Nicolas Maduro, and Berlin?
Yeah, the Venezuelan Foreign Ministry has declared the German ambassador Daniel Kriener persona non grata and given him 48 hours to leave the country now. This was after they said there'd been a series of incidents in which he had, according to Venezuelan authorities, interfered in internal affairs here in a crass and unlawful way. That was a statement treated by the Venezuelan Foreign Minister, Jorge Arraza. Now, the German ambassador, Daniel Kriener, was one of several diplomats who 2 days ago went down to the airport to greet Juan Guaido, the opposition leader who's declared himself to be the legitimate interim president of Venezuela, to greet him on his return to Venezuela and to put pressure on Venezuelan authorities to let him into the country without being arrested. Now, lots of people are asking why the German ambassador, because Daniel Kriener was only one of a group of diplomats from several different countries who went down to the airport to greet Juan Guaido, among them France, Canada, Chile, Brazil, several European countries, the chargé d'affaires from the American embassy. But they said they have singled out the German ambassador because they said there was a repeated nature. This is from Nicolas Maduro's government. The repeated nature of his, what they term meddling in Venezuelan affairs. Now, he did not attend the inauguration of Nicolas Maduro in January. He's also, the German embassy in Venezuela has previously published statements on its Twitter account saying that Juan Guaido's return, the ambassador hoped, would be a step towards a peaceful and political transition here in Venezuela. So perhaps this declaration that the German ambassador is persona non grata could be seen as a warning to other diplomats from around the world, from some of the more than 50 countries, a warning from the Maduro government that they will not tolerate such a stance.
All right, Catherine Norris-Trent in Caracas, thanks so much for that update.
So that was the German ambassador. And that was what exactly they did in Chad, because they did not support the current government in power. And they want for they want or wanted for election to be held because they support, okay, I would say the opposition to come in power. Okay, so they were interfering into the political affair to have a speedy election to be heard. All right, and then in there they said the German ambassador were doing the right thing, were advocating on a human right. Do you know how many human rights violations in Germany? What can the so-called human right in Germany speak? Do you know how many human rights violations in America here? Where are they? Do you know how many so much human rights violation in Europe? Where are the human rights? Only in Africa, they can go and exercise their human rights. But I dare them to go to India to go talk about human rights. I dare them to go to Asia or China to go talk about human rights. I dare them to go to Saudi Arabia to talk about human rights. I dare them to go to Dubai to talk about human rights. But only in Africa, they will go and carry their so-called human rights to go practice human rights there. And we Africans, we condone it. We Africans, we accept them. Have you ever seen the Chinese with what going in their country? Have you ever wondered seeing them talking about we need an international community? Have you ever gone to Japan and see what they're going through? Have you ever heard them saying we need international community? Have you ever gone to Dubai with all what they have? or they are going through? Have you ever seen their citizens or their journalists talking about we need international community? Have you ever gone to UAE and you see them talking about we need international community? In Africa, we will always call on a colonizer as an international community to come solve our problem. No other nation or no other continent do it. Only Africa. Only African people will call their enslaved or their oppressor to come and save them. To come and act as human rights. But in their so-called country, they have the worst human rights violation than Africa. But they will go to Africa and preach human rights. But they will never preach about human rights in other places. Because you know what? They will put them in their places. You know what? Those countries have power. Those countries do not take their nonsense. But we Africans, we take their nonsense. Let's continue to the next page. So you see what Venezuela did. They were supporting, the German was supporting the ambassador, were supporting the opposition to come in power. And they kicked them out. That's the same thing happened in Chad. And Niger interfering in the election, but trying to put the citizens together, okay, as enemy. And then the citizens were then start fighting among one another. And then the same so-called whites will come and sit there and say African people are stupid. African people are stupid. They are 3/5 of a lesser human being. They are inferior. How can they destroy their own country? How can they destroy their own continent? How can they kill one another? It doesn't make sense. That's what they'll be saying. But now new, that's their hair, that's their handwork. Now new, that's what they wanted, and it is happening. But I don't blame them too. I blame we the African. Because if we find ourselves in opposition, we want to get in power, instead of doing the right thing, we don't do it. We go the other route. Then we go to the enemies. We get the support of the enemies. We get the narrative of the enemies to come and convince our people. I don't blame them. I blame we African. We are our own enemy at times. We are our own enemies. We are our own enemies. I don't blame them. I blame us sometimes. Even though what happening in Chad, in Sudan, these army are not just fighting one another for nothing. The same thing they were trying to do in Chad, that's the same thing they did in Sudan. But again, I don't blame them. I blame the so-called army. If you know you took oath to protect your people, you took oath to protect your nation, why should you go and be fighting another army man and destroying your country and killing your people because of Western agenda? The stupidity of Africa is too damn much. Craziness. And these Westerners are sitting down laughing. They are laughing and bullying us. And then when you want other, then they say, no, we don't need refugee. We don't need Sudanese refugee in our country. We don't need Sudanese refugee on our continent. Yes, they don't need it. Let's continue to the next one. So let's see what power does. Let's see what happened with the sanction they put on Ukraine. On Russia. Let's see how it backfire. If African people have control their narrative, if African people have control their own resources, if African people have power, at times, the sanction these so-called Western world put on African nation, it will never work. In fact, it will backfire them. It will go against them. Just how the sanction they put on Russia go against them. Let's see here. Let's watch something here and see something. Now, the video we are about to watch, right, is an explanation of Ukraine and Russia. All right. Now, the reason why I'm about to show this video is a lesson that I want we African and African leaders to get from here. It's not about Ukraine and Russia. Okay. I don't care. That's not my business. However, I have concern as a human being. All right. I have concern as a human being. What is happening to the innocent Ukrainian? Okay. On that point, on that note, I have concern for the people, for the innocent people. Just how we have so many innocent people in our African community who don't know nothing. In Africa, who don't know nothing, but are the victim. So in that regard, the innocent people in Ukraine, I am concerned about them. But I am not concerned about the elite.
A Chinese military base in Canada or in Mexico. Not accept a Chinese military base in Canada or in Mexico or in the Caribbean. So why would Russia accept US, which NATO is really, US, military missiles and bombs and planes and tanks right at its border? And number 4, it wants that the world recognize Crimea, Lugansk, and Donetsk as territories separate from Ukraine, because they're full of Russian speakers. They're full of ethnic Russians. So there is some historical claim there that we don't know all the intricacies and nuances of that. We act like, we're pro-Ukrainian and we don't even know what's happened there. Now, all these demands could have been met without war and the death of thousands of troops and civilians. But now Western NATO leaders are talking tough publicly. But know that the defeat of the Ukrainian army is a foregone conclusion, and that the sanctions on Russia might hurt the West as much or worse than Russia. Since 2004, West.
Now, let's see, let's explain beyond that. Why will the sanction, why will America or Europe put sanction on Russia and our sanction affect America or affect Europe rather than Russia? And part B to that question again, why anytime Europe and America put sanction on African nation, it affects African nations and it don't affect America or Europe? And then why with Russia, they sanction Russia or how do you call it? America and Europe put on Russia. Why did it affect America and affect Europe, but did not affect Russia? Why will it not affect Russia, but it affects America, the same people that put the sanction on Russia? It affects Europe, the same people that put the sanction on Russia. Why would it affect them? It don't affect Russia. But why, when anytime they put sanction on African nation, it affects African nation, it don't affect them? These are the things we need to be looking at. Why it didn't affect Russia when they put sanction on Russia? Why it affect Africa when they put sanction on Africa? Why it affected them when they put sanction on Russia, But why it don't affect them when they put sanctions on Africa? Pay attention. And we have the answer to that. They also know the answer, but they will not tell us. And we have the answer. The answer to that is because, one, Russia do not depend on America, not on Europe. And why it affects us is because we African people, we depend on America and Europe. Two, it don't affect Russia because Russia controls her own currency. It affects Africa because we do not have currency. We depend on the colonial currency, American currency, European currency. Why it don't affect Russia? Another reason, because Russia controls her natural resources. Why it affects Africa? Because we Africans do not control our own natural resources. Our resources are being controlled by Europe and America. Europe and America do not control Russia's resources. So, Russia's resources is being controlled by Russian, and Russia decides who to sell her resources to. And Russia decides which currency her resources should be traded in. We Africans, we don't decide. The same people that put sanctions on Africa decide on which currency African resources should be sold, should be traded. They decide which nation Africa should trade with. They decide which nation, African nation that has sanctions or should trade with. They didn't decide for Russia when they put sanctions on Russia. They did not decide which nation Russia should trade with. In fact, Russia started trading with other nations. And in fact, Russia left America out. And in fact, Russia left Europe out. And they start struggling and suffering. What happened today? France have to go and beg China. France have to go and beg China. Because of the heat France or Emmanuel Macron is fixing. Which one of the European nations will go and beg Africa? Because we don't have the power. We don't have the damn power. We don't control nothing that belongs to us. It is controlled by the same colonizer, by the oppressor. Power. The Chinese control their own narrative. The Chinese media work with the Chinese authority. Even as bad as the American media have tried to portray the Chinese governmental system, the Chinese communists, have you seen any Chinese media to come and say the Chinese communists is bad, is tyrant, is killing and torturing its own people? That the Western media can say that. But we Africans, we go by the so-called narrative of the West. We take the narrative of the Western democracy when they themselves do not have democracy. That is why when anytime they put sanctions on African nations, we suffer and they do suffer. That is why they put sanctions on Russia. Russia is not suffering it, but they are the ones suffering it. And they cannot go back to Russia and tell Russia, you know what, we beg you. We're going to take the sanction off. We put sanction on you. We thought you are going to suffer, but we are suffering. Shame is on them that they cannot go to Russia. Power and control of resources. Power and control of our own currency. That is what Africa needs. Let's continue.
Leaders have worked to keep Ukraine impoverished and corrupt as a way to cultivate a puppet state that would act as a wedge to destabilize Russian security, even while some Western politicians have been personally enriched by corrupt business dealings in Russia and Ukraine. And that goes straight to the Biden family. That's what Donald Trump was trying to investigate. He was impeached for making a call about getting facts on how deep was the corruption, how deep was.
All right. Let's explain that again. That again, go to the media. Do you see what the Western media do? They give you narrative for you to believe. What the media did, the media make Donald Trump ugly, right? And up to now, most of you so-called weak-minded, you don't do your research to find out what actually behind the scene. Sometimes what they gave you is not what is the truth. Sometimes the food they gave you, the food they design, you see it looks so juicy and good and nice. It's not the right one. You have to go make your own food. You have to make your own food, because when you make your own food, you know what you put in there. It may not look as clean, as decent as the one they're giving you, but that food that you yourself make is more hefty or heftier than the one they gave you that looks so fancy. Let's continue here.
The deep state. How many people were making millions of dollars in Ukraine? And the Biden family were involved. It's not even a secret. A peace deal was possible. Putin had said what he wanted. We could have negotiated. Did you know that 1 month after the invasion, Russia and Ukraine were ready to sign a peace deal in April 2022? But Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of UK, personally traveled to Ukraine to meet Zelensky.
And this was true. We reported on this last year when Boris Johnson visited Ukraine and told Zelensky not to make any deal with Russia. We reported on this, which is true.
And stop a peace deal. This has now come out. The war would have been over 2 months after it started. Europe would not be short of energy, food, or fertilizer, and the world price of oil and gas would not have skyrocketed. None of you.
So let's go back again. Who is now suffering with energy crisis? Who is now suffering with energy crisis? They say Europe. They are in cold and their people are dying. You know why? Because Europe does not control the energy sector of Russia. The Russians control it. So in our same manner, if we Africans control our land, control our mind, control our resources, no matter how sanctions come from the West or from America, it will never affect us. It will affect them, because we will not give them our gold, our diamond, our lithium, our iron ore. We will trade to different people, but they control it. So it won't affect them. If they were the one to control the Russian energy sector, the Russian was going to be in big trouble. And Europe was not going to be in trouble. It was never going to affect them. But they don't control it. They need it. So the Russian sell it to different people. And that is why they are suffering. Now today they are suffering. That is why in France, protest upon protest since 2020. Up to now today, protest upon protest in Europe. But they don't show it on their media. Control is what we need to get power. We control our land. We control our resources. We control our narrative. African. We control our currency.
Your bills would have gone up if Boris Johnson had not personally met with Zelensky. And here's what went down. According to multiple former senior U.S. officials, In April 2022, Russia and Ukraine negotiators appear to have tentatively agreed on the outlines of a negotiated interim settlement. Russia would withdraw to its position on February 23, when it controlled part of Donbass region and all of Crimea, and in exchange, Ukraine would promise not to seek NATO membership and instead receive security guarantees from a number of countries. Reasonable? Is Putin the war criminal or Boris Johnson? Putin was ready to sign this peace deal. You would have averted the deaths. You would have averted the energy crisis. We don't even know how many lies, how deep the lies go. Only when these things begin to come out. And how many people report this? Is this on CNN? Is this on BBC? It's such a controlled narrative. According to a Western newspaper, a pro-Western newspaper in Ukraine, it said that even if, Boris Johnson said, even if Ukraine is ready to sign some agreement on guarantees with Putin, they are not. Western powers are not. Johnson's position was that the collective West now felt that Putin was not really as powerful as they had previously imagined, and that here was a chance to press him.
So you heard a power. The reason why they didn't want peace deal, because they felt Russia was still weak, because they based their narrative on, at the time, Russia was, how they call it, the USSR. So they didn't know that since after that time, World War II, as much as they tried to isolate Russia, Russia was preparing. Preparation is what African people don't know. We don't prepare. We are weak-minded when it comes to preparation.
So they were going for war. They were trying to destroy a part of Europe. You cannot have European security without including Russia. Russia is a part of Europe. But they're alienating Russia. Sounds like a bad marriage. They seem to have this formula down pat. The entire world sanctioned Russian oil, froze Russian assets, attacked the Russian ruble, forbade Russian stocks to trade. Netflix even canceled paid subscriptions. Can you imagine that? On what basis? You're a Russian, you didn't start any war, you paid for your Netflix, you can't access it anymore. Russian news was wiped off the internet. There used to be RT, you used to hear both sides. They demonized Russia and completely stopped any flow of information from the other side. We're still living in this, and you think we have free press, free speech?
So, the conclusion from this video, right, is power. That's it. And this is what they did to Russia. That's what exactly they do to Africans. Even in America here, that's what they do to Africans in America. What they do to Africa in America is no different from what they do to Africa in Africa. It's no different from what they do to African nations out of Africa. It's no different. See what they did to Russia. They put sanction on Russia. They froze the Russian oil, everything, their media, they dismiss all. But guess what? Do you know why Russia is still surviving? Because Russia does not depend on a European currency. Russia does not depend on American currency. Russia does not depend on European resources, even if they have some. Because what they have is they are all looting resources from colonial time. Russia does not depend on American resources. Russia depends on her own resources, her own currency, her own power, her own army. Russia does not wait for America to say, come and have base in Russia to train our military. But you so-called African Negro, the same colonizer will come and tell you, don't train your army. Don't invite Russia to train your army. Don't invite China to train your army. Don't invite India. Don't invite North Korea to train your army. Those people are enemies. We will come and train you. But the main enemies are the colonizer, though. The main enemies are the enslaver. The main enemies are the oppressor. The main enemies are the people that killed Gaddafi. The main enemies are the people that killed Thomas Sankara. The main enemies are the people that killed Patrick Lumumba. The main enemies are the people that killed Malcolm X. The main enemies are the people that killed Dr. King. The main enemies are the oppressor. The main enemies are the people that created proxy wars. The main enemies are the people that support terrorists in Africa. The TPLF, the people that supported the TPLF are the enemies. How can the enemy come and tell you? The enemy come and identify who your enemies are. Don't you know your enemies? How can your enemy come and tell you who to partner with, who to follow? Don't you know who to follow, who to partner with? But one thing I can say is, Africans are still waking up with all the difficulties, with all the hardship. It may seem that we're not waking up, right? We're waking up. But do you know how many years it took for us to start waking up? Do you know how many years it took for us to believe them? It's going to take some time for our people to wake up. But I can tell you, I can encourage you, our people are waking up. Let's look at this video here. And from there, we will go to the same scripture I'm preaching today. I told you guys, I will preach today. And shout out to Vicky, all right? Shout out to Vicky for this video. So this video here show the level, some level of power, some level of awakening, some level of bravery, fearless of this contemporary African. And the unity that is existing, the strong coordination among African on the continent and African out of the continent, African home and abroad. The connection and the togetherness, the understanding is what I love about this video.
Be a contributor here on African Diaspora News channel. Please make sure you give us a big thumbs up, and share the broadcast. Thank you so very much. Now, family, shout out to our Black family around the world, particularly in Ghana. I want you to watch this clip of what appears to be a Ghanaian MP who absolutely just knocks it out of the park in his accurate and correct checking of Kamala Harris's recent trip to Ghana, trying to check Ghana about so-called anti-LGBT legislation and laws. I want you all to listen to what he says. Watch this.
Kamala Harris is entitled to her opinion, the same way you're entitled to your opinion, the same way I hold the opinion that she and the American government are a bunch of cowards, you know, and that they have no right to talk about human rights because they're the biggest abusers of human rights. Child rights are equally human rights. And yesterday, 2 hours after that press conference with the president, a 28-year-old gun woman walked into an American school and killed 3 American children and killed 3 American teachers. It's the right, one of the fundamental basic rights of any human being is the right to life. The American government, in which Kamala Harris is vice president, is failing to take decisive action on gun control. And so people who should not have access to weapons are having access to assault rifles and killing innocent children and teachers in America. And the vice president of that country wants to come and teach us human rights. I mean, the irony of it. She's a person of color. But for being vice president, what happened to George Floyd could easily have happened to her, or any of the several people who have been killed in America by errant white policemen, which has led to the Black Lives Matter issue. If people have to demonstrate to let the American government know that Black Lives Matter, they need help from us. I've stated on record that myself and my colleagues are very willing to engage the American government and the US Congress to help them shape laws that will clamp down on gun violence, because they really have need for it. But it's the hypocrisy of the US, where they call homosexuality a human rights issue in Africa, but yet they are doing business with countries where homosexuality is frowned upon. Over $1 billion of military hardware is sold to Qatar almost on a yearly basis. In Qatar, homosexuality is punished by death, not imprisonment. Why are they not threatening Qatar? One of the biggest trading partners of the United States government is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, it's punished by death. Why are they not threatening them? Why are they not threatening Russia? Then they come to Ghana and Africa and they want to come and threaten us with LGBTQ. The American government is a bunch of hypocrites. If they really want to flex their muscle, they should go and flex their muscle on Russia, India, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, the places where they are selling weapons to.
Okay, somebody put some round of applause in the chat. Somebody put a round of applause, some black hands in the chat. This brother deserves a standing ovation. Did you hear him break down the fact that one of America's biggest trading partners is Saudi Arabia? He talks about the connection America has to Qatar, but yet those countries, homosexuality there is punishable by unaliving, we're going to say, people there. Not jailing, but unaliving them. He said, but you want to come, but you all do trade with them, one of your biggest trading partners in Saudi Arabia. But why aren't you guys calling them out? He said, why y'all in Russia on those kinds of things? But you want to come to Africa and check us. Talk black to me, somebody.
But it's the hypocrisy of the US, where they call homosexuality a human rights issue in Africa, but yet they are doing business with countries where homosexuality is frowned upon. Over $1 billion of military hardware is sold to Qatar almost on a yearly basis. In Qatar, homosexuality is punished by death, not imprisonment. Why are they not threatening Qatar? One of the biggest trading partners of the United States government is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, it's punished by death. Why are they not threatening them? Why are they not threatening Russia?
And what gets me is when he said something is wrong when black folks in America, when the American people have to get in the street and protest and say Black Lives Matter. He said he offers to come to America. Him and his team, they can come to America to help America with its legislation. Where's my gavel? For those of you that don't know, the Vicky Show is the home of the hand claps and the gavel raps. He said, the brother said, we can come to America and help you with your legislation. He said, if America wants to flex her muscle, she needs to flex it over there on these other countries, her trading partners, where they take people out.
Then they come to Ghana and Africa and they want to come and threaten us with LGBTQ. The American government is a bunch of hypocrites. If they really want to flex their muscle, they should go and flex their muscle on Russia, India, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, the places where they are selling weapons.
They put them 6 feet under if they are accused of violating LGBT laws there. Shout out to our black family around the world. Something is happening. America's hypocrisy is all the way out of control, and she must be humbled with truth. And that lets you all know, is this really about quote unquote human rights? As our brother makes it very clear. You all, your errant officers, as he broke down, are murdering black folk. You got problems in your schools with folks shooting up schools and all this kind of stuff, but you want to come over here and talk to us about human rights? This is important for the balance of the world. My name is Vicky Dillard. Thank you so much for tuning into the Vicky Show right here on African Diaspora News Channel. Be sure to share the broadcast, give us a big thumbs up, and be sure to check out my platform at VickyPlanet.com. The link is below. I can't wait to see you again.
Now, I can't even explain further. I'm just going to leave that there, right? But like I said, I'm going to preach this morning, all right? let's go to the Bible. There's same Bible here. All right. There's same Bible. Let's go to this Bible. Let's go to Romans 12, verse 2. At time, we go to the Bible. This is a revolutionary channel, okay? So at time, we will check the Bible out. All right? Let's go to the same Bible, all right? This Bible was the same Bible used during slavery, right? This Bible was the same Bible used during slavery. Was the same Bible used during colonial time. This Bible. So let's go to it. So why it is today when Africans use their same Bible to preach, and then they say, why are you taking that from the Bible? The same Bible the colonizer talk about, right? They told us, this Bible told us that is what they said. They told us that this Bible, it says, we the slave, we the slave, we should respect our master. We should fear them, right? That's what the Bible say. That's what they told us. They told us that the Bible say, what is written in here? The Creator says we should respect and fear the white man. We should respect and fear our enemies. We should respect our enemies and be afraid of our enemies. And they told us that only our enemies, okay, should have control over us. They told us that if our enemies slap our right cheeks, we should turn the light so that they can slap the left, right? That's what they told us. But let's see what the same Bible says. Because what it did, they took certain things from this Bible. And that's what they gave to us to control our mind and the narrative, right? But let's see what the same Bible said about our enemies and who our enemies are. Okay? Let's look at Romans 12, verse 2. It reads, and be not conformed to this war. Now, to the so-called Kamala Harris and to the so-called American government, to the so-called American Congress, to the so-called American diplomats that are leaving America and going to the African continent. The same Bible says African people should not be conformed to the war, to your Western ideology, to your Western war. That's what the same Bible says. The Bible says we Africans should not be conformed to the war, to your war. Let's continue. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The same Bible says we should be transformed. African people, black people should be transformed by renewing. That means you should think for yourself now. Your enemy should not think for you. Renew your mind. We Africans should renew our mind by ourselves. We should renew our mind by African. Renew your mind. Your mind should be renewed by African. Learn your history by African. Your history should be taught by African. Don't be taught by the narrative of the Western world. Don't be taught by the narrative of the colonizer, because the colonizer are your enemy. They are your internal enemies. Your enslavers are your internal enemies. That's why he said, renew your mind. Do not be confronted by the war. But by ye be transformed by renewing your mind. Let's continue. It did not stop there. The same Bible said that ye may prove what is that good, G-O-O-D. Renew your mind. Do not be conformed by the world. Be transformed. Transform me to leave one stage to another. And when you live in that stage that you are in, you should go higher. Don't go lower. Go higher. Ascend. When you are transformed, you ascend. You do not descend. When you are transformed, you ascend. You do not descend. You do not lead to that same place, and you do not be demoted. You be promoted when you transform. And while you are renewed, you become whole. You become holistic. You become brand new. You become yourself. You understand who you are. You no longer think the way people want you to think when you are renewed. You no longer think the way people want you to think. You no longer do things the way people want you to do things when you are renewed. You become a different person. That is the same Bible telling us we should renew, we should become a different person for our own good. Not for their good, but for our own good. Let's continue here. Let's continue. And then it says that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect and acceptable and good and perfect. This Bible. That's the same Bible speaking. So how can a colonizer that once came to us and told us we were inferior and told us we were cursed race and told us we were 3/5 of a lesser human being and they told us nothing good will be for us and they told us that Africa and her descendants will never rise. They will make sure to suppress us. They will make sure we will not be renewed. They will make sure we will always be conformed to their word. They will make sure we will never be transformed. And today they are coming to us again, telling us that another man should go bend his butt down for another man to go look into his butt. When woman was made for man, and man was made for woman. But they are telling us today that it is good for a man to go and put his ass in the egg, for another man to go look into his ass. That's the Bible says we should not be conformed to the world, but we should be transformed by renewing our mind, yet by proving what is good and acceptable and perfect. Now we know that we are telling America LGBT is not accepted on the African continent. LGBT is not accepted. We are not going to accept it on the African continent. LGBT is not perfect, it's demonic, it's satanic, it's deadly, it's ratchet. We don't like it, we don't want it. We are telling you, the colonizer, you are the enemies. We don't need your narrative. Let's continue to 1 Peter. 1 Peter 5, verse 8. I am preaching a little bit. We're using the same Bible to teach our people. Let's go to 1 Peter. 1 Peter 5, verse 8. It reads us. Be sober. Be sober. Be vigilant. Be sober. Be wise. Be strong. Don't be weak. Be vigilant. Be mindful. Be watchful. Because your adversary, the devil, your enemies, The one that enslaved you, the one that colonized you, the one that told you you were 3/5 of a lesser human being, the one that castrated you, the one that enslaved you, the one that raped you, the one that raped your mother, your sister, the one that lynched you, the one that hate you, the one that make you to work on a cotton plantation day and night with no food, no drinking water, the one that whip you, the one that chin your neck at the devil, at the enemy. God said, the Creator said, be vigilant of them. Be sober of them. They are the devil. They are the enemies. Let's continue this. Let's continue here. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walk about seeking whom he may devour. They are the enemies. They are like roaring lion. That does not mean they are lion. But the example or the scenario they are telling us here is, you know what lion is. When lion is meeting its prey, what is in the mind of the lion is to devour that lion. I mean, it's to kill that prey. It's to eat it. It's to tear it apart. It's to cause chaos. It's to everything. It's to cause death. So the enemy are like roaring lion. The devil are like roaring lion. Our enslaver are like roaring lion. The oppressor are like roaring lion. They don't want peace for you. They are like roaring lion into your social activity. They are like roaring lion into the economic activities. They are like roaring lion into our political affair. Aren't we seeing it as a lie? The Bible did not lie. They are the enemies. They are like roaring lion into your social activity. Is it lie? I did not tell you all that another man should go look in another man boo-boo hole. Another man should go lay down with another man and put his private part into another man boo-boo hole. Why can't they go to Saudi Arabia to go preach that another man should go lay down in another man poo-poo hole? Why can't they go preach human right? You know what? They will disappear. They will never come back to America. But in Africa, they can go do their stupidity and their so-called human right because we accept it. Why can't they go to China to go preach that another man should go lay down with another man? Why can't they go to India to go preach? Why Kamala Harris can't go there? She says she's from India. Let her go to India to go destroy the culture of India. She will never come back to America if she go there and go preach that kind of messages. Let her go to Saudi Arabia. Let her go to Kuwait. Let her go to North Korea and go preach. They will not do it. Let her go to Dubai. You saw the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. You saw what a Qatarian did. They said, America, Europe, don't bring that nonsense. We are so-called LGBT. Do not bring it here. They wanted to wear that so-called stupid band and what they're saying. The Qatar said, no, we're not doing it. Respect our culture. But we Africans, we don't have power. And all these things go along with power and controlling your narrative and your resources and controlling your currency. But everything about Africa is backward. We depend on a European currency. We depend on the European to come and control our resources. And then wait for them to come and give us little or nothing. We take the narrative of the Western world, we wait for them to come and get a report about Africa, then we take it, we run with it. Backwardness. The better we come to our senses, sooner or later, the better it will be good for us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is today's presentation. Thank you all for being here. I will see you on Friday. Peace.